Hey, hello guys, what's up? 6. A positive peer group. Your brain potential is not just related to your biological networks or your neurological networks, it's also related to your social networks. Who you spend time with is who you become. Motivational speaker Jim Rohn says that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Whether you believe that or not, I don't think any of us can disagree with the notion that the people around us have a meaningful influence on our lives. A recent Temple University study showed that people, specifically teenagers in this study, act differently when they are alone than they do when they are with others. In reporting on the study for the New York Times, Tara Parker Pope said that Dr. Stensberg, one of the authors of the study, notes that the brain system involved in reward processing is also involved in the processing of social information, explaining why peers can have such a pronounced effect on decision making. Because of this influence, those you spend time with have a genuine effect on brain function. Certainly, they affect your self-talk, as most of us tie at least a part of our beliefs to the beliefs others have about us. But they can affect everything from what you eat to how much you exercise, to even how much sleep you get. There are lots of books out there dedicated to helping you distinguish people who are good for you from people who are not. But for the purpose of this chapter, just take a few minutes to think about who your peers are, how much influence they have on your life, and how this affects your desire to unlimit yourself. 7. Brain protection. This probably goes without saying, but protecting your brain is critical if you're going to make the most of your brain. You have only one brain. If you were given only one car to use for the rest of your life, how well would you treat that car? You would take care of it as if your life depends on it. Accidents are unavoidable, but putting yourself in situations where brain injury is less likely improves your chances of avoiding the worst. Hard contact or extreme sports are not ideal if you want to make the most of this precious asset. Driving 20 miles an hour over the speed limit at the time on your motorcycle is advisable, either if you love these things too much to give them up, at the very least take as many precautions and use as many safety tools as you can. 8. New learning. One of the most important things you can do for the health of your brain is to keep learning. We are all capable of expanding the capacities of our brains even as we get older, which we discussed when we talked about neuroplasticity in chapter 3. What this means is that as long as we keep learning, we continue to create new pathways in our brains. We keep our brains plastic and supple, capable of processing new information in relevant ways. This is especially true if we give ourselves genuine challenges in our learning, attempting to master a new skill, to discover a new language, to embrace parts of your culture or the culture of others that are new to you. All keep those neurons firing and creating new pathways. By increasing the ways you use your brain, you increase the capabilities of your brain. 9. Stress management. We all experience some level of stress in our everyday lives. Sometimes a great deal of stress. Whenever we experience stress, a hormone known as cortisol is released to alleviate the physical rigors of stress on our bodies. If this happens occasionally, it's not a problem. But if it happens with great regularity, the buildup of cortisol in our brains can lead it to cease functioning properly. But there's more. There is evidence that chronic persistent stress may actually rewire your brain, says a piece on the Harvard Health blog. Scientists have learned that animals that experience prolonged stress have less activity in the parts of their brain that handle higher order tasks, for example, the prefrontal cortex, and more activity in the primitive parts of the brain that are focused on survival, such as the amygdala. It's much like what would happen if you exercise one part of your brain and not the other. The part that was activated more often would become stronger, and the part that got less attention would get weaker. This is what appears to happen in the brain when it is under continuous stress. It essentially builds up the part of the brain designed to handle threats, and the part of the brain tasked with more complex thought takes a backseat. With much clear evidence that stress can be debilitating to your brain, finding ways to reduce or avoid stress becomes critical. I'm going to offer a number of suggestions in this area over the course of this book. 10. Sleep. If you want better focus, you need to get good sleep. If you wanna be a clearer thinker, you need to get good sleep. If you wanna make better decisions or have a better memory, you need to get good sleep. According to the National Institutes of Health, quality sleep and getting enough of it at the right times is an essential to survival as food and water. Without sleep, you can form or maintain the pathways in your brain that let you learn and create new memories, and it's harder to concentrate and respond quickly. Sleep is important to a number of brain functions, including how nerve cells, neurons communicate with each other. In fact, your brain and body stays remarkably active while you sleep. Recent findings suggest that sleep plays a housekeeping role that removes toxins in your brain that builds up while you are awake. The takeaway: getting enough sleep and getting enough quality sleep is essential if you're gonna make the most of your brain. Sleep is not a choice. I know there are a lot of people out there who say they don't need a lot of sleep, or that they don't have time for sleep, or even consider it a point of pride that their lives are so full of activity that they have no choice but to sacrifice sleep. That's a mistake, and if you're one of those people, it's something I want you to reconsider. Right now. Sleep is crucial to overall health and daily functioning, writes Dr. Jean Kim, a psychiatrist and a clinical assistant professor of psychiatry at George Washington University. Increasing evidence has tied lack of sleep to a host of mental and physical disorders, including increased depression, irritability, impulsivity, cardiovascular disease, and more. One study noted that sleep actually functions as a sort of laundry cycle for the brain, where during sleep, blood vessels and lymphatic channels in the brain hyperfuse and flush out metabolic buildup from the day and remove neurotoxins and distribute components that enhance cellular repair. In his TED Talk about sleep, Dr. Jeff Iliff of Oregon Health and Science University takes the laundry cycle metaphor even further. He notes that while we're awake, the brain is so busy doing other things that it doesn't have the capacity to clean itself of waste. The buildup of this waste, amyloid beta, is now being linked to the development of Alzheimer's disease. When the brain is awake and is at its most busy, it puts off clearing away the waste from the spaces between its cells until later, and then when it goes to sleep and doesn't have to be as busy, it shifts into a kind of cleaning mode, clear away the waste from the spaces between its cells, the waste that's accumulated throughout the day. A little later in the talk, Iliff warns against doing something that so many of us do: sacrificing sleep until we get a chance to catch up. Like our housework, it's a dirty and a thankless job, but it's also important in your house. If you start cleaning your kitchen for a month, your home will become completely unavailable very quickly. But in the brain, the consequences of falling behind may be much greater than the embarrassment of dirty conversation.